The game is so far gone with these World Cup ticket resale prices. Jamie Carragher has declared war on Mo Salah, and Captain America is genuinely destroying the Serie. This is DMAC Daily. To the patriotic Americans who are incapable of handling any critique of their big, beautiful football World Cup, you might want to sit this one out, because with the recent announcement of the World Cup draw, a fresh new hellscape has emerged in relation to ticket resale prices. As you already know, the tickets that were unveiled back in October were beyond egregious. In the US opener, for instance, the cheapest tickets were $560 and over $2,700 for a Category 1 ticket. Bar a small selection of Category 4 tickets, the prices were insane in every department. I mean, just look at the difference from 2022 to 2026. Almost all Category 4 tickets are 10x that of Qatar's World Cup prices. But as mentioned, there's an even more nefarious component in store relating to the ticket scalping market. Granted, this isn't solely a FIFA problem. This is a universal issue. Anyone that has been to an event or a concert can vouch for this. But FIFA's lack of regulation in counteracting ticket scalpers is worthy of criticism, especially considering they too have their own ticket resale platform, which I'll touch on later. But for the pre-sale tickets already on offer, scalpers have simply hoarded all the tickets to create an artificial scarcity of sort. Case in point, the release of the World Cup draw and match schedule triggered a dramatic surge in resale ticket prices. According to ticket tracking site Ticket Data, resale prices for matches featuring Portugal and Argentina jumped by nearly 300% on average within hours of the announcement. Before matchups were confirmed, the cheapest ticket for the June 27 game at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami was under $400. Within an hour of FIFA announcing Portugal versus Colombia, the price then surged above $2,000, briefly approaching $3,000 and later settling for around $2,200. That made it the fourth most expensive ticket of the entire tournament on the resale market, behind only the final and semi-finals. The magnetism of Messi and Ronaldo likely appearing in their sixth and final World Cups is obviously the key driver here. Both remain easily the most recognizable footballers in the American market. A similar spike followed Brazil versus Scotland in Miami, while three of Argentina's group games against Algeria in Kansas City, Austria, and Jordan in Arlington, Texas, also ranked amongst the steepest price jumps. However, the pricing frenzy extended well beyond just the two giants. Resale prices rose for approximately 78 of the World Cup's 91 matches scheduled in the United States and Canada. Interestingly enough, the remaining 13 matches in Mexico were excluded from this price surge due to local resale restrictions, a sharp contrast to the largely unregulated markets north of the border. Okay, Mexico, out here preserving the sanctity of the beautiful game. Now, it is important to note that less glamorous fixtures on paper also saw some prices fall. Uzbekistan versus an intercontinental playoff team in Atlanta dropped below $200, while other several low-profile group games declined by 20 to 40%. That being said, I assume those tickets will inevitably rise in price come 2026. All in all, this is a giant scam. Resellers stockpiled thousands of tickets for the sole purpose of flipping for a profit, and because the US and Canada have next to no laws prohibiting reselling of tickets at marked up prices, this is, no pun intended, the Wild West. Anything goes. FIFA are also taking full advantage of this lawlessness. FIFA have their own official ticket resale website that's charging both the seller a 15% fee and the buyer another 15% fee. So for every $100 worth of transactions, they'll be taking around $30. This is pure theft, plain and simple. I haven't even touched on the dynamic pricing element that is only going to exacerbate this problem even further. Granted, before a ticket was even sold, I never anticipated a FIFA event hosted primarily in the US would ever factor in affordability. I mean, it's literally the epicenter of capitalist greed, but Gianni Infantino, boy oh boy, do I despise this real-life demon. Remember, back in 2016, when this man became president of the previously embroiled institution FIFA following a high-profile corruption scandal, he promised, quote, "We will restore the image of FIFA and the respect of FIFA, and everyone in the world will applaud us and will applaud all of you for what we'll do in FIFA in the future." Infantino is so comically corrupt that he makes Sepp Blatter look like a saint. But on the positive side, yeah, there are none. Switching gears to the Premier League, and the Salah versus Slot versus Carragher saga has reached new levels of toxicity. We all knew about Salah's explosive interview where he basically condemned Arne Slot, the club's hierarchy, and then notably went after Jamie Carragher. Well, in the aftermath, Slot has responded instantly by pulling Salah out of the squad set to face Inter Milan on Tuesday. An especially bold call considering Chiesa and Gakpo will also miss this match due to fitness issues. Slot then went on to say, "Usually I'm calm and I'm polite, but that doesn't mean I am weak." And when asked if Salah has played his last game for Liverpool, he replied, "I have no clue." I was then somewhat surprised to see Alisson show both support for his under fire manager and also criticism for Salah's actions, saying not being available is just a consequence of what he did, and he is smart enough to know that. That's a huge statement to make, but then Carragher took it to another level. Quote, "I thought it was a disgrace what he did after the game." Now, I watched his full segment on Sky Sports, and for the most part, his comments were rational and rather thought-provoking. That Slot's decision to bench Salah in each of those 3 games had legitimate justifications, that he fundamentally thinks it was wrong for Salah to make such explosive comments in the midst of the club's worst run since the 50s, and that he believes Salah was calculated, lashing out following a bad result to inflict maximum damage, to essentially try and oust Slot, something Carragher claims Salah has also done previously. Now, I can understand that criticism angle from Carragher. These are logical arguments being made. It's the other things he said that I think went way overboard, because Carragher is a skilled communicator who knows exactly how his words will be perceived in the media. Yet he didn't ease the tension, and I think there's some hypocrisy in his condemnation of Salah too. For starters, he blatantly contradicts himself by asking, "Have I ever criticized Mo Salah on the pitch?" The co-host then reminded him that just 4 weeks ago against PSV, Carragher literally said, "Looks like his legs have gone," when referring to Salah. He also attacked Salah's contribution defensively during his tenure at the club. Quote, "He's thrown the Liverpool right back under the bus for 8 years. Can you imagine playing behind him for 8 years?" In reference to Trent's defensive struggles historically. That comment was so unnecessary, and I understand he contextualized this by saying that Liverpool accept his defensive weaknesses because of his prolific offensive contribution, but Carragher didn't need to use such explosive language to do so. I get his overarching message is that no player alone is bigger than the club, and that's where I agree with Carragher, but the language seems rather vindicative, rather personal at times. Even the comments about AFCON and referencing that he arrived in England as nothing but a Chelsea flop is so disrespectful. Bottom line, he knows Salah is not going to interpret these comments well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Salah respond in an even more hostile manner. We're entering uncharted territory here. Moving to Italian football news, and the LeBron James of soccer himself is actually killing it right now in the Serie A. Despite not being fully fit due to illness, the US star was brought on with Milan trailing 2-1 away at Torino. Within 1 minute of being brought onto the pitch, Pulisic had already scored, and just 10 minutes later, he'd go on to score the match winner, taking Milan back to the top of the Serie A table. His form this season has been phenomenal. He's the division's current top scorer and has 11 goal involvements in 12 appearances. But these numbers don't really emphasize just how exceptional the American's form has been. Due to ongoing fitness challenges, he's only started 33% of games this campaign, so he's actually averaging a goal or assist every 50 minutes, a lower number of minutes than the likes of Kane, Mbappe, and Haaland. In fact, no player in Europe's top 7 leagues has more goals and goal involvements this season than the American. When available, he's been borderline unplayable, but in fairness to Pulisic, he's been phenomenal since day one in Milan. This redemption arc has been visible for years now, hitting 20 plus goal involvements in back-to-back Serie A campaigns already. That consistency isn't really talked about enough. One could argue he's quite underrated nowadays. In fact, only Lautaro Martinez has more goal involvements than the American since he joined. But considering Pulisic isn't even a striker, that output is all the more impressive. In a Milan team that features the likes of Modric and Rafael Leao, Pulisic is arguably the real star and seems to be really thriving in Allegri's 3-5-2 system. He's essentially becoming the man that everyone thought Leao was going to be. The only problem with Pulisic is his body. If he can stay healthy, I truly believe that he is capable of mixing it with the world's best. I mean, McTominay is the blueprint for Serie A rejuvenation. The guy's a Ballon d'Or nominee after all. But I'd argue Pulisic's ceiling is even higher. Don't sleep on the guy. Elsewhere in football overnight, and we witnessed another individual masterclass courtesy of Manchester United's Bruno Fernandes. 2 goals plus plus a phenomenal assist and a pre-assist for Mbeumo's goal. This was one of the finest individual displays I've seen in recent memory. At the heart of everything offensively, in a match where he was given more license to get forward against an albeit pretty naive Wolves side, Bruno was causing all sorts. Having watched this, it only amplifies my belief further that playing primarily in a double pivot is stifling the Portuguese magician to be at the center of their creativity. Because as a 6 against more competent opposition, there's far more defensive responsibility involved, and when in possession, it's less about creating and more about dictating the pace. But his playmaking attributes are world class. Against bang average teams, he can take more offensive risks and punish the opposition. Mount was also excellent today, although Bruno was simply robbed of man of the match in my opinion. Wolves remain stranded at the bottom, but United rise up to 6th place, level on points with Chelsea. The unpredictability of the Premier League this season is wild. Anyways guys, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. I'll see you tomorrow.